The Steam Deck has completely changed how I approach games, like absolutely completely. Its balance of power, the new OLED screen, and its versatility makes it my go-to device for just so many different games. I mean, I've made more progress to my backlog over the last year than probably the last 5, especially now with the new OLED model. That new OLED display really just makes everything pop off screen, and I am constantly surprised and pleased by what this thing can do and some of the games that it can run. One of the things that's just so special about this device, though, is its community. We're all constantly discovering all of these games together, and that's what this video is all about today. I'm going to recommend 15 different games that you should try on the Steam Deck in 2024. Some of these are brand new games, others might be a little bit older, but they run great, they play great, and at times, they take advantage of the unique features that the Steam Deck has to offer. Now, these are just some of my own personal recommendations. Like I said, I'm constantly discovering another game that plays great on the Steam Deck, and I'll actually make more of these lists in the future as I discover other great games. So do make sure to subscribe for future videos as well. But with that said, let's just go and jump right into the list. Number 15, Aperture Desk Job. I have to start this list off with the most obvious choice because this is a title that every Steam Deck owner should try. It doesn't come pre-installed, but it is a first-party Valve game that was specifically built for the Steam Deck in mind to introduce players to its various features. It's a great way of learning about the Steam Deck's features in a very fun way. If you've played the Portal games and if you like those, it is set in the same universe and has that same brilliant charm and humor. Now, this game will only take you about an hour to complete, but it really is a pure joy to play. And oh, by the way, it is completely free. Number 14, Portal Revolution. If you really like the Portal universe, though, and if you're like everybody else wanting Portal 3, hopefully we'll get that eventually, but we do have Portal Revolution for the time being. This is actually a new fan-made mod that has a full-blown story and everything, and a lot of people right now are considering it Portal 3. Now, personally, I don't think that it necessarily reaches the same heights as the Valve-made games, but I still think that it's a pretty solid overall experience. It's set between Portal 1 and 2. It has this humorous story that introduces a few new characters, and it even has some new gameplay mechanics to make for some fresh, new, interesting puzzles. Now, this is a heavier game than the vanilla Portal 2, but it still runs extremely well on a Steam Deck with an occasional drop in frame rate here and there. Nothing too crazy, though, and if you do like Portal, definitely give Portal Revolution a try. It is free if you own Portal 2. Number 13, Cassette Beast. Anytime I think about handheld gaming, I look back at one of the most pivotal franchises of my entire life, Pokemon. You can even say that debatably it's the most revolutionary and most popular handheld series of all time. The thing is, while Pokemon isn't quote-unquote natively available on the Steam Deck, there however are other monster catching options including Cassette Beast. This very well might be one of the best attempts at this genre that I've personally seen, and its quality really surprised me. Its story and the way that you evolve your monsters kind of reminds me a little bit of Digimon to an extent, but besides the comparisons, Cassette Beast, it brings its own charm. It's got a great art style to it, the battles are a lot of fun, the monster designs are legitimately good, and the music is excellent. If you like these type of games with turn-based combat and monster catching, it feels right at home on a Steam Deck. Number 12, Divinity Original Sin 2. Now, everybody is talking about Baldur's Gate 3 and how good it is. It did just win the Game of the Year, which is something that we don't really see often when it comes to this genre. But even before Baldur's Gate 3, Larian Studios already made a great game within the same genre, Divinity Original Sin 2. This game does run better on a Steam Deck than Baldur's Gate 3, which, in my opinion, makes it the better choice for deck players. Now, there are a lot of similarities between both games. Both are excellent turn-based isometric RPGs, but Divinity has more of a whimsical tale, albeit still a great story. It also has excellent companions, and I just think that this is one of the best CRPGs that you can currently play on a Steam Deck. If you do, though, I would recommend increasing the font size using a mod. You can find that over on Nexus Mods, and it's actually pretty easy to do. I'll drop a link in the description below. Number 11, Pizza Tower. Now, this is not a difficult game to run on the Steam Deck, but it is one that I think all deck owners should be aware of. Pizza Tower really just feels perfect on the Steam Deck, and if you have that OLED model, the colors really pop off screen. Pizza Tower, though, is this really over-the-top 2D platformer that's almost a combination of Wario games, Sonic the Hedgehog, and old Cartoon Network shows. If anything, I'd say it's a brilliant combination that's a ton of fun to play. You basically play as this pizza man, and he just runs and smashes through levels until he reaches the end, and then he has to kind of hightail it back before the level just implodes. It's not so much about surviving per se, because there's really no deaths in this game. It's more about the pure speed and rush that you get flying through the level as you take advantage of the surprisingly expansive kit of moves. Number 10, Tunic. Now, this is another one of those games that feels right at home on a Steam Deck. Its art style is truly gorgeous, though at first glance, it's easy to mistake Tunic as another top-down Zelda-like. But this game actually has so much more than that. It draws a lot of inspiration from the Soulsborne genre, and it's deceptively challenging. It's got some great boss fights, the combat is meticulous, and it really challenges you to uncover its many, many secrets. I think both the puzzles and combat in Tunic are done very well, and in my opinion, this is not only one of the best games that you can play on a Steam Deck, but I think it's actually just one of the best independent games, period. Number 9, Nier Automata. This is one of those games that's really going to introduce you to just how impressive the Steam Deck is. This is a great looking game, and out of the box without any kind of tinkering, I was getting pretty impressive results. For the most part, it was running at 60 frames per second with an occasional dip during busier scenes, but you can always lower its frame rate to 40 or 45, and it does run pretty well. Nier Automata, though, is an absolutely amazing game. It's one of my favorite single-player games of all time. It is an action RPG that tells a rather unique story over the course of various playthroughs. When you reach the end credits in this game, keep playing, because it only gets better. It also has some of the best music in gaming of all time. Seriously, though, if you haven't already played Nier Automata, the Steam Deck is actually a surprisingly pretty good option. Number 8, Diablo 4. Now, here's a game that really surprised me. I mean, we're talking about a brand new AAA RPG here, and it runs fantastically well on the Steam Deck. Now, technically, you can get up to 60 frames in Diablo 4, though for stability purposes and picture clarity, I actually recommend locking it in at 40 frames, but it still feels fantastic to play on a Steam Deck. As an added bonus, if you do have that OLED model, this game does support HDR, and then its visuals are really, really going to pop off screen. With how well this game feels on the deck, though, I'm really hoping that Blizzard adds more of their games to Steam. I'm looking at Diablo 2 Resurrected. Come on, let's make it happen. Number 7, Hades. Now, this game almost feels like it was made for the Steam Deck. This is one of those games that feels absolutely perfect to play, and again, if you have that OLED model, this is a game that really takes advantage of its screen. Because the color palette that they use, the colors in this game just look so vibrant on the OLED display. If you're unaware of what this game is, though, it's a roguelike experience, and before you judge too quickly, I'm actually not really a big fan of this genre. Hades, though, I mean, it's just a different beast. It does have a very well-told story that really ties into the roguelike mechanics, and I think that makes its runs even more rewarding. When you die in this game, you never feel deflated. There's always a lot of extra encouragement because, ironically, each death brings new promise through its storytelling and added gameplay mechanics. Before you know it, you'll lose 50+ hours playing it, and you'll still want to play more. Number 6, Persona. Now, for me, I've always felt like handhelds are perfect for JRPGs. That's always been my personal preference, and in fact, the first time I ever played the Persona series was on the PlayStation Vita. So these games, including the newest entry, Persona 5 Royal, feels right at home on the Steam Deck. Dare I say, this might actually be the best way to play them. Now, of course, Persona 3 and 4 are easy games to run on the Steam Deck, considering they are older entries, but Persona 5 Royal, that also runs at 60 frames per second. One recommendation that I do have, though, is to change the control scheme to a community-made version that removes some of the dead zone. After that, though, it feels just absolutely mwah. If you don't know what these games are, though, it's basically a turn-based JRPG that combines dungeon crawling, the monster-catching genre, social sim elements, and then blends it all into a school setting. They legitimately have some of those memorable characters and stories, so I can't recommend these games enough if you do like JRPGs. Number 5, Dark Souls Remastered. Everybody right now is so focused on Elden Ring, and rightfully so. That's one of my favorite games ever made as well, and it surprisingly plays really good on the Steam Deck. Though the reason that I bring up Dark Souls is because it plays better on a Steam Deck. You can play Dark Souls Remastered at 60 frames per second without sacrificing all of its visuals, and it still feels fantastic to play. For me, these are the type of experiences that I look for in a deck where it just feels like a perfect experience. Dark Souls has also aged incredibly well in my opinion. So I mean, if anything, I know a lot of people were introduced to the Souls genre through Elden Ring. Again, rightfully so, it's an amazing game, but don't sleep on the older entries. They're still a lot of fun to play, and the Steam Deck kind of makes it the perfect time to jump in. Number 4, 3D platformers. One genre that I've really gotten a lot out of on the Steam Deck are 3D platformers. For the most part, they seem to run flawlessly on a Steam Deck. Now, some you might need to limit their frame rate to 40, but it's just a genre that feels great on a handheld device. So here's a few recommendations that I've personally tried. I recently finished SpongeBob the Cosmic Shake. I really enjoyed that one. I firmly believe it's one of the most underrated 3D platformers around. If you like SpongeBob, you'll probably like that game. Then there's Psychonauts 2, the Crash Insane trilogy. You have Crash Bandicoot 4, Spyro Reignited, and of course, we can't forget about A Hat in Time. You really can't go wrong with any of these titles. If this is a genre that you like, then you'll probably love playing them on the Steam Deck. Number 3, Doom. One of the first games that I played on the Steam Deck still remains one of the most impressive. Doom 2016, and then also Doom Eternal. These games are incredibly optimized to run on the Steam Deck. This was really just my wow moment for the Steam Deck because they run just so unbelievably well, and more importantly, how they feel. The Steam Deck takes full advantage of Doom's gameplay. I mean, I was just talking about 3D platformers and JRPGs and how good they feel on the Steam Deck, but I can also say the same thing for fast-paced first-person shooters because the Steam Deck supports gyro aiming. Now, there is a learning curve to using gyro, but truly, once you get used to it, this makes first-person shooters feel so much better compared to a standard controller. I have a hard time playing the Doom games with an Xbox controller, but with the Steam Deck, it feels fantastic. So for those reasons, I do believe Doom is among the best games to have for the Steam Deck. Number 2, Zelda Twilight Princess HD and Wind Waker HD. Now, okay, some people might consider this a bit of a cop-out. I get that and everything, but hear me out. The Steam Deck does what Nintendo don't. Fans have been begging Nintendo to release these games for the Switch, and up to this point, for whatever reason, they haven't. It's honestly a real shame, but Steam Deck can technically do what the Switch can't. You can play both of these games on a Steam Deck right now using Wii U emulation, and they run fantastically well. Now, I do own a physical copy of both of these games, so I'm going to go ahead and throw that out there. But if you do own these games, they do offer good performance. Now, Twilight Princess HD does drop some frames in some of the more open areas, or at least it did when I first played through it. That was pretty early on in the Steam Deck's life cycle, though, so the Cemu team may have improved that since then. But Wind Waker, it's timeless as ever. It is locked at 30 frames per second, but it still looks just so amazing, especially on the OLED display. And at the number 1 spot, Hi-Fi Rush. The theme throughout this video was for games that look good, play good, and have good performance on a Steam Deck. And Hi-Fi Rush meets all that criteria plus a whole lot more. This is a new game, and it's one of the most unique games that released in the last few years. It's this charming, colorful game that combines rhythm-based gameplay, platforming, and hack-and-slash elements. And you know what? That might sound strange, but they absolutely crushed it. The characters are likable, the story is fun, it pokes fun at corporate culture, and it also has a lot of replayability. Most importantly, it's just a lot of fun to play. There's a reason that 98% of all reviews on Steam recommends Hi-Fi Rush, and that's because it really is that good. And the fact that not only plays well on a Steam Deck, but also because it feels right at home on this platform, this is such an easy recommend. If you haven't already played it, you need to check out Hi-Fi Rush. Anyways, though, that's it for this video. This is just 15 recommendations for the moment, but as I play more and discover more games, I'll be back with more of these videos in the future. In the meantime, though, let me hear your recommendations below. But with that said, peace out.